You hear the screeching of an owl, you hear the wind begin to howl. You know there's zombies on the prowl, and it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again, and you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time.
Food is one of the primary cornerstones of life, both in Zomboid and reality. And much like reality, there is many different dishes and ways to prepare a meal, as well as obtaining said meals. Today we'll be discussing in depth how to cook in Zomboid, how to collect ingredients, and how to reuse whatever does still go bad, as well as preservation methods to help slow the spoiling of your food. Before we dive in, I'd like to ask you to take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment what you think about the video. Now let's begin. First up, you're gonna have to pick a method of cooking. Do you want to use a microwave, a fire, a grill, the stove? No matter what choice you make, you're going to need a resource of some sort, be that electricity, wood fuel, propane, or even charcoal. Early game, you'll be able to rely on a stove to cook with power, but once the power goes out, you're gonna need to make other considerations. If you want to keep using the stove, you're gonna need a generator and plenty of fuel. This is not always a viable option, however, especially if you can't secure a fuel station. Your next option is going to be something that uses a natural form of fuel. Personally, I tend to use a wood stove or a campfire, as carrying a propane or charcoal grill can sometimes be prohibitively heavy. You could also establish a base in a gas station and use a generator to power the pumps for an unlimited source of fuel and therefore an unlimited source of power. And once you have this source of power, move a stove to the gas station, or if you're lucky to have one of the few gas stations that have an apartment as a second floor base. Now keep in mind some precautions when it comes to cooking though. Leave your stove on for too long and you risk burning your house down, or set a campfire too close and it may spread the fire to your home and burn it that way. And you will look pretty stupid just standing in the ashes of your home. There is a large variety of ways to secure food as discussed in my needs video, but let's go into them in depth. Early game, you're primarily going to rely on scavenging. Focus on eating fresh, perishable meals first if possible, as they are going to spoil on you given enough in-game time, even if refrigerated. Canned goods and non-perishables should be stockpiled and saved to help you survive the harsh winter if possible, as your food supplies will run quite thin once all the perishables rot away and your foraging fails you. Foraging is your next most likely source of food, in two ways. First being the berries and mushrooms you find can be used as a large supply of food during the spring, summer, and early fall months. Keep in mind, the closer you get to winter, the less they'll produce, eventually stopping entirely until spring. But another method that foraging provides to avoid starvation is the procurement of fishing supplies. Worms, crickets, roaches, and other insects can be used as bait to capture fish, as well as eating the bugs themselves if you get truly desperate. The next form of procurement is useful on any part of the map that's near a source of water. To make use of fishing, you'll require a rod, spare line if it breaks, paper clips to replace the hooks if they break, and some sort of bait, be that fishing tackle or small wildlife like worms, bugs, and lesser fish. Fishing will provide food even in the harsh cold of the winter, though with a lesser abundance than the summer months. Using this skill, you can catch a wide variety of fish, both small and large. Another method of procuring bait for fishing is using a net trap, which will catch a small bait fish. Be careful to not leave the net trap in the water for too long, however, or it will be destroyed and require repair. You can also eat these small bait fish at desperation, but they don't provide many hunger units. Your next form of food comes in the form of small woodland critters That's right, we're talking trapping, and no, I don't mean Astolfo. That's cannibalism. Do not eat the trap. This is personally my least utilized form of food, but an effective form nonetheless. To trap animals, you must be 75 tiles away from where you set the trap and have something in it as bait. These traps vary from small common store-bought mouse traps to snares, to wooden boxes that'll trap something inside them. Many traps can be used from a low level and catch a variety of animals. To make these traps, however, you'll either need a trait that teaches said skill, the park ranger occupation, or find one of the hunter magazines in-game to learn how to make a trap. Once you've got your trap set and baited, gone far enough away from it, and now we wait. Be sure to check often, if possible around once every in-game hour, as the game will tick to see if the trap will have something in it or not. Be aware that traps can go off or break without capturing something, and zombies will be attracted to cages that have animals within them. And zombies can also count against the animal capture, so they need to be away from the trap as well. Also keep in mind that each animal has a specific range that it prefers and can spawn in. Some biomes are just outright impossible for some creatures to spawn in. The final form of food gathering will be farming. Old reliable, slow and steady, but even working into the dead of winter with certain crops such as cabbages and potatoes. This will be one of the main methods to surviving for a large group of players, or for those who choose to not venture near the rivers. Farming has various stages, and each crop will have a different set of time until it hits each stage. Crops can also be harvested during the last 2 stages of growth, but you want to wait until the final stage of growth if possible so you can get seeds required to grow further generations of crop. The higher your farming skill, the more effectively you can tend to your crops, identify and cure diseases, and a variety of other factors that influence your crop's health. Now that we have our food, but wait! We harvested too much! There's no way we can eat all of this in a week or 2. Well, that, my friend, we can handle with preservation methods. There's 2 primary methods of preservation within Zomboid: refrigeration/freezing and canning. So the first methods are primarily only useful during the early game when the power is on. Though if you're using the generator gas station idea, then you can keep your fridge and freezers working indefinitely. For late game mass storage of food, however, you're gonna need to take a look into canning. You're gonna need some jars, lids, vinegar, sugar, and at least 5 of whatever crop it is you want to preserve. Keep in mind, you can only can vegetables for now, but now we've got what we need to keep these crops going well into the late game. One of the most fleshed out and in-depth skills in the game. There is so many different ways to prepare the food. You can make a different meal type each day for weeks. You've got roast, stews, baking, stir-fries, salads of various kinds, soups, and more. You can boil up pasta, then stir in veggies and meat, toss in various seasonings and condiments that bolster your happiness and boredom. The main point of cooking is to satisfy the hunger stat, but as your cooking skill rises, both your abilities to maximize hunger drain and the ability to boost stat bonuses climb higher. While high-level cooking starts to lose potency for a single player once you get high enough, where it really shines is in a group setting. Being able to, say, make a soup that restores well over 100 hunger, then divide that into 4 bowls, and each one of those bowls can be consumed in 4 on halves. This allows you to make food's potency go so much further for a large amount of people. And each meal you make has a huge variety of choices for how you prepare it. This really lets you customize to make the best use of resources that you have on hand. Stuck in the woods with only a bowl and berries? Then make a fruit salad for a healthy hunger and happiness boost. Near a lake or river home? Well, fish up some fish, butcher them in the fillets, and stuff them in a pan or a pot, and make them into a roast or soup. Got bread? Well, make a sandwich out of whatever you can. Cooking is one of those skills that fits into pretty much any playstyle with ease, as every player has to eat. and there are just such a large variety in recipes in the game to reflect this. Another thing to keep in mind, however, is you won't have access to every recipe in the game right away unless you take the chef or burger flipper occupation or have the amateur cook trait. If this is the case, then you will need to find cooking magazines located throughout the world, either on shelves, bookshelves, libraries, homes, or anywhere one would logically keep books and magazines. Keep an eye out for the good cooking magazines if you wish to do baking in-game and make some more use of whatever ingredients you can find. Oops! You waited too long and your food went bad on you, eh? Well, good news for you. With a high enough cooking level, that being level 7, you can still use 10% of the food value of an item in a meal without getting sick. And if you don't have that skill, then build a composter box, toss your crops and food that have spoiled into the box, and slowly over time you'll convert it into compost. And you can use that to fertilize your crops, making them grow faster. To harvest the fertilizer, you will require an empty sack, however. But once you've done this, spread it all over your crops and watch as your food resources climb higher and higher. I hope you've enjoyed this more in-depth look at food within Zomboid and are better prepared to enjoy your stay in Moldra. This has been Core, and I'll see you next time. Be sure to support the video. Peace out.